Top 10 Most Famous Shipwrecks. Here we take a look at 10 of history's most famous shipwrecks. Number 10. Ms. World Discoverer. The Ms. World Discoverer was a Danish cruise ship created in 1974. While carrying passengers on a cruise in 2000, it struck a rock at the Solomon Islands, resulting in the ship subsiding. A distress signal was quickly dispatched and all crew and passengers were escorted safely to another passenger ferry. There have been several attempts to salvage the shipwreck, but none have been successful, partly due to the fact that much of the ship has been looted and damaged during the Solomon Islands Civil War. The ship has remained at Roderick Bay ever since, and is now a popular local tourist attraction, and it can even be viewed on Google Maps. Number 9. The Black Swan. The Black Swan, or the Black Swan Project, is believed to be the greatest recovery of gold treasure in history. The treasure was found on the remains of the Spanish warship Nuestra Señora de las Mercedes, which sank off Portugal in 1804. In 2007, the American company Odyssey Marine Exploration announced that it had uncovered gold worth an estimated $500 million, £314 million. However, the Spanish government declared that they rightfully owned the gold, and the case went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, only for the gold to be returned to Spanish authorities in 2012, where it is now displayed in various exhibitions across the country. 8 megavolts Dona Paz. The sinking of the MV Dona Paz is remembered in history as the deadliest of all peacetime maritime disasters. It was a Philippine-registered ferry, and while carrying over 4,000 passengers, collided with an oil tanker Mount Vector on December 20, 1987. A fire and explosion ensued, killing a predicted 4,386 passengers, and there were only 24 survivors. A lack of proper safety and communication measures were blamed, and it reportedly took 8 hours for the Philippine maritime authorities to hear of the incident. Due to the fire, much of the ship was destroyed, and it is now remembered as Asia's Titanic. Number 7. The Queen Anne's Revenge. Queen Anne's Revenge was an 18th-century warship mostly known for being the ship of legendary pirate Blackbeard, Edward Teach. First serving in the British Navy, the ship was later captured by the French and then by pirates from 1717 onwards. Although Blackbeard used the ship for less than a year, he achieved some of his greatest prizes during this time. In 1718 he grounded the ship and abandoned it, escaping capture by the British by boarding a smaller nearby ship. In 1996 the remains of Queen Anne's Revenge were discovered, about 1 mile ashore from Atlantic Beach, North Carolina. So far 31 cannons have been discovered and more than 250,000 artifacts have been recovered. As one of the few pirate ships to be discovered, it is now listed on the U.S. National Register of Historic Places. Number 6. Vasa. Vasa is a Swedish warship, believed to have been built between 1626 and 1628. The ship sank 20 minutes into its maiden voyage on August 10, 1628, after being hit by strong winds and flooding. Sinking less than a mile into its journey, it was regarded as a great embarrassment for the King of Sweden, and there were several salvage attempts, but none were successful. It was not until 1961 that the shipwreck was successfully recovered, including thousands of artifacts. The hull of the ship was found to be remarkably intact, and with the help of some restoration, the ship is now a popular Swedish tourist attraction, with over 22 million visitors to date. Number 5. The Mary Rose. The Mary Rose was a Tudor warship commissioned and run during the reign of Henry VIII. Launched in 1511, it served in many battles against France, Brittany and Scotland, and in 1545 it sank during a battle against the French. Sinking in the Solent, close to the Isle of Wight, it was not rediscovered until 1971, and was salvaged in 1982. The remains of the shipwreck are now viewable in a museum in Portsmouth, and has become one of the most expensive and expansive projects in maritime archaeology history. In addition to the ship's structure itself, Over 26,000 artifacts have been recovered, many of which are now on public display. The remains of about half of the deceased crew members have also been recovered, and bone analysis has revealed that many suffered from health conditions such as arthritis, rickets and scurvy. 4. USS Arizona. The USS Arizona was an American battleship built for the U.S. Navy, launched in 1915. The ship served many purposes, from escorting President Woodrow Wilson to the Paris Peace Conference to being sent to Turkey during the Greco-Turkish War, and was sent from California to Pearl Harbor, Hawaii in 1940 in response to the threat of Japanese imperialism. On 7th December, 1941, USS Arizona was bombed by the Japanese, exploding and sinking. 1,177 crew members and officers were killed. The shipwreck was declared a National Historic Landmark on May 5, 1989. Today the shipwreck remains and can be viewed at the USS Arizona Memorial, and is annually visited by 2 million people. 3. RMS Lusitania. RMS Lusitania was a British ocean liner launched in 1906, and made a total of 202 transatlantic crossings before it was torpedoed and sunk by a German U-boat on May 7, 1915. Of the 1,962 passengers and crew aboard, 1,191 lost their lives, causing outrage and shock across the world. Some believe it was a major factor in encouraging the U.S. to enter World War II as an ally. Today the shipwreck is in a state of severe deterioration. As it had been operating for 7 years prior to sinking, it is in much worse condition compared to the Titanic, and much was destroyed upon the initial blast of the torpedo. It lies 11 miles south of the lighthouse at Kinsale, Ireland. There have been various salvage attempts of the Lusitania, with many of the remaining ship's items being recovered, some of which are privately owned while others are on displays in museums around the world. 2. RMS Republic. The star of billion-dollar wreck. The RMS Republic was built in 1903 and operated as a steam-powered ocean liner. It wasn't until January 23, 1909 at 5:30 a.m. that disaster struck, colliding with the Lloyd Italiano liner SS Florida just off Nantucket, Massachusetts, and sinking the next day at about 8:40 p.m. A total of 6 lives were lost, and the evacuation process was praised as flawless at the time. Since the sinking, there have been many rumors and legends surrounding the treasure that supposedly went down with the ship, ranging from $250,000 to $3 million in estimates of the value of the sunken treasure. If excavated today, it could be worth hundreds of millions of dollars, perhaps even $1 billion. It is now son and father Grant and Martin Baird's mission on billion-dollar wreck to recover the rumored treasure and claim it as their own. The shipwreck itself is 250 feet underwater and much of it has deteriorated. However, the vaults that contain the alleged treasure appear to be very much intact. 1. RMS Titanic. Just about everyone knows about Titanic, and its fate. A lot of us will know it from James Cameron's 1997 mega-blockbuster Titanic, which included actual footage of the ship's series remains. The supposedly unsinkable ocean liner set sail on its maiden voyage on April 10, 1912, only to hit an iceberg just before midnight on 14th of April and sank in less than 3 hours. Claiming 1,514 lives, it is often remembered as one of the most famous and tragic shipwrecks in history. It wasn't until 1985 that a Franco-American expedition was able to reach the shipwreck, and discovered that it had been split in half, with each half lying within about 1/3 of a mile apart from one another. The stern section was found to be almost completely crumbled, whereas the bow is in much better condition, with some of the interiors incredibly intact. Hundreds of artifacts have been excavated from the shipwreck and can be viewed in various exhibitions around the world, from tableware to furniture and even menus.